Hi. Occasionally I see some really interesting data, and I must admit I'm remiss in not communicating this as much as I should do. So I had this data sent to me yesterday by a national team coach, and this is the data of an athlete, a national level, an Olympic level athlete who actually was in the finals in the 1500 metres of the World Championships in Singapore just last month. So we're talking about a proper elite finalist, distance swimmer. And they sent me this data and said, look, can you help us try and understand what's going on here? We're a little bit unsure how to read this. But what was really good about it is that they've also included in here some video and synced it up with the video. So when I first of all looked at the data, I thought, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on, and I was able to then sort of articulate what that was. Then when I went into the video, bingo, it was there, it was nice and clear. So let me step through a couple of bits and pieces here. First of all, you can see for a distance swimmer, and remember with a distance swimmer, we're ideally looking at them having somewhere in the realms of 65, 70, 75% propulsion. This person is very low. Look at this, 32% propulsive percentage across all the laps and across both hands. It's very low. And you can see here how that's reflected in their propulsive darker blocks down here, which as opposed to their total power. So we've got our total power output up here, and the lighter blue and the lighter orange, yet the dark orange and the dark blue reflects the amount of propulsion that they're generating, and quite obviously it's very low. And that's further reflected when we look into the force field, and here we can see not only that it's only 32%, but look where it's going. And so a downward force generated for a distance swimmer, we're really looking in that 17 to 22, right? Call it 20%. And as you can see here, we're 55. So this is more than double. In fact, it's getting up to the realms where it's triple the amount of downward force that's being generated compared to ideally what we're looking to do and what our target is. So instantly we see perfect upward, not a problem there, but we are generating some hand drag. And the problem with that hand drag, even though it's only small, the problem with that hand drag, which is the turning up of the fingers, when you get to the end of the glide, if you've got your hand in that position, it's going to have to travel downward further before you're able to get the elbow up and able to get into that high elbow catch, which you need as a distance swimmer. So this business where we see a lot of athletes scooping as they're going through the glide or dropping that elbow, bad. We want that glide to be like this, and we want the elbow to be above the wrist so that we can very quickly go from here into here and get propulsive. Pretty straightforward, nothing too dramatic. But where this starts to get really interesting is, okay, what's going on with the downward? Why are we generating so much? And so we'll have a look in here, and we'll pop some vertical on, and we'll just pick the very first stroke, left hand. And I'm going to move that red line through to here. So we've popped the red line right where this athlete is generating the maximum amount of downward force or downward power through the stroke. And the two things that are ringing alarm bells are, number one, look how close we are to the point of maximum propulsion. And this is a problem. This is not a sprinter, this is a distance swimmer. And with that distance swimmer, it's getting over the barrel, getting through that downward phase, and then whacking it through to get that propulsion. And when you're getting the maximum downward and the maximum propulsion happening at the same time, or very close to one another, that's ringing alarm bells. Also, and you can see right here, at this phase of the stroke where we are at the bottom of the arc, is when, and I'll try and stand up and show you, is when we want that arm like this. We want to hold the water, not just with the hand, but with the forearm. The whole idea is to grab that water, hold that water, and bring it through. So it is all propulsive. It's not down, it's propulsive. We want the downward phase to be happening up here. we want to be getting through the downward here and definitely not down here. So what did I see? I'll tell you exactly what I saw. I saw the hand at this point is not like this. If anything, it's coming through like this. And if that hand is coming through like this, it's going to be generating some propulsion, but it's also going to be generating vertical. And obviously, it's not holding that water properly. That's what we need to hold the water. That hand needs to be vertical. Now, the beauty about this athlete, this file that was shared with me, is having the ability to go into the power versus time. Click on this little baby here. And bear with me while we get this to load a little bit, because they did a great job of uploading and syncing their data. So let's have a little look here. And what I'm going to do is, let's have a look at the left hand up here. So I'm going to turn the right hand off because we're going to focus on the left hand, and we're going to pop the vertical on. I'm going to blow these first few strokes up. So here's a great thing. Right there, in fact, if I put that dotted line, you'll see I'm lining up on the point of maximum vertical downward force, and you can see how close it is up here to hitting that point of that point of maximum propulsion. Let me blow this up just a little bit further, right? And so I'm going to click here. Let's see if this video, here we go. So this has taken us to that frame in the video, nice and clear. In fact, let me move my ugly head out of the way so we can see it clearly. And then let's go frame by frame and let's look at what's going on with that hand. Okay, she's generating some downward, all very well. Now it's going to back off, and then, okay. Now, look what's going on here. See the video. See the image. This arm is not vertical, right? It's angled slightly, that's fine. But then we've got a pivot on the wrist, right? That hand should be hitting into that position, and then as that arm comes through, that wrist should pivot, retaining that hand vertical all the way through. Now, because that hand is pivoted and that hand is not in line with the arm, but it's pivoting like this, that's generating downward power, downward force. And it's not holding the water, it's not catching it and holding it the way it should. And let me just back off a little bit as we scroll through a bit further, frame by frame, and now you'll see the hand will come through. Now it's vertical. We've gotten rid of all that downward there, but all this downward in here that's been generated, unnecessary, wasteful, and it's taking away the propulsion, and it's limiting her ability to grab that water and hold the water. And then as we go through and finish, right, here she goes. And then let's see if we can see it on the second one. Here we come. Let's see if it's a similar pattern. Yep. There you go. She's got that kink in here. She's got that. Now it's not as much of a kink as the previous one, and that's why, look, that's why she's generating slightly less downward power compared to the previous stroke. But these things are so sensitive, this system is so sensitive and so accurate that we're able to see in the data when there's power or forces going in directions other than the direction that it's going to help you move forward. And that's precisely what we've got here. We'll have a look at one more. Let's see what happens on this third one as we come through. Yeah, again, come back a bit, Whisker. Again, there's a real kink at the wrist, and she's not getting that hand down to hold that water. It's staying up like that, and that's contributing to excess downward force and losing not complete grip of the water, but losing the maximum hold of the water, which is what she wants. Look, that's it for me. I thought this was really interesting because I know some people are looking at data like this and scratching their head and saying, I don't understand. Why am I generating downward power at the point where I should be just coming through at the bottom of the arc? This is exactly why. When you've got this pivoting or kinking at the wrist and it's leaving that hand facing downwards instead of facing fully to the back, that's exactly what you're going to get. And I thought particularly this was really amazing in that here's a young lady who was a finalist in the World Championships in Singapore last month in the 1500 metres. So we're talking about a very high level athlete, but still with a fundamental issue like this that can be seen very clearly in the data. Thanks very much.